Hey guys, this is Steve Baker, the Pragmatic Constitutionalist, here again with Mr. Scott Law. I'm hanging out in Raleigh, North Carolina, and Scott's in Tulsa, Oklahoma. So
Hello,
here we
hello,
are.
hello.
Yeah, man. So we woke up this morning and had a little chat via text and decided that we were going to do, a podcast today and chatted a little bit about what we were going to do, and then both discovered that we had haircut appointments today. Now, the difference between mine and yours is that I'm not actually getting mine cut. I'm just getting it, out of zombie form and
Coiffed?
shaped back up.
Coiffed? I mean, what was the proper term?
Oh, I really, my hair's really thick, and so I just get it thinned out. But I'm still growing it. I'm not giving up on the Bowie looks yet, so I'm still growing it. I was shaved at the beginning of when COVID started, and uh, I had roughly a 1999 Bowie, or not, I'm sorry, 1989 Bowie style going at the time.
But you're going full on Bowie now.
Well, yeah, but I'm not going to do Ziggy. I mean, Ziggy was, back in 1973 with the red shag, and even Bowie quit doing Ziggy. So if he gave it up, I'm not going there either.
I don't know.
So.
I'd still like you to, play dress up one day and just, let's dance.
Yeah. I can do that. I can do that look too.
I'm just getting my hairs cut, and unlike David Bowie, I don't have a Ziggy look or anything like that. So.
Well, I've got 2 more phases that I wanted, when we get back to work again, and I was using this break. I thought it was going to be, a few weeks, and so I just didn't care about cutting my hair. But then when I came to the realization this was going to be several months, I started, okay, well, let's just let it grow. And because I had a couple other styles that I wanted to at least get on film or video of me doing, when I do the David Bowie tribute act, that I wanted to get into the archive, the video and photography archive. But apart from wearing a wig, it was going to be really, really hard for me to get there. Well, now that, lockdown has turned into forever, I've got time to grow my hair. So I'm just letting it go. And I'll, actually, so I think we're going to you'll be able to throw these on there. I'm going to do this look right here.
Okay.
Is where I'm headed to next.
Nice.
Okay.
Nice.
And then once I get some more months under my belt, then I'm going to do this look right here.
Scary.
So, yeah. So that look was like late 1990s.
Okay.
And to right up until about the year 2000. And then this look was from Glastonbury in the year 2000. So yeah, so this look had to be about 98, 99, somewhere. Yeah, only me and my hairdresser know for sure.
Good. Well, we've had since last we talked, we've had some changes. Due to COVID, I'm no longer going to be able to travel to Iraq and Kurdistan. So, which you're thrilled about, because now you have no excuse to blame me on your inability to handle technology on your road trip. So I'll be here.
I'm not thrilled, because you don't get to do what you love doing and obviously continuing your dad's work. But obviously with the road trip coming up, I'm very happy that there's an upside for me. I'll put it
it is
nice as I can put it,
Yeah.
And selfishly, I'm thankful. But having said that, what was the reason given for the cancel? I mean, was it? State Department, our side,
actually,
their side?
State Department tells you don't go nowhere near Iraq, which is irrelevant to me.
Right.
I contacted my guy on the ground, and he had called a number of mayors to small villages that we were going to go work in, and the outbreak in COVID actually was okay up north in the main city that we'd fly into, but in the villages further out, probably a half an hour outside, there was a much higher infection rate, and the mayor recommended us to stay away. My contact has diabetes as well, and so his concern was heightened. He was okay with us coming over there. We were going to stay in the main city, meet with elected officials. It was going to be great. But then once we get out in the village, he has a higher susceptibility of catching something. The mayor also recommended us not to come. So
Yeah.
hopefully we can go in January. We'll see. We'll see.
Mm.
Shall see. So
All
anyway,
right.
so we're here.
Good.
We're
We're
here.
here.
And we're actually going to talk about the commie virus that, as coined by you, Steve. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about one of the posts that you had a few hours ago today on the a comparison between Sweden and a couple of other Nordic countries, Norway and Finland, and how you compare the two of them. Since you were really championing the method of how Sweden was handling their response early on, and how now they've kind of slipped lately. Why don't you talk
Yeah.
about that a little bit?
Well, we've had plenty of distractions other than COVID in recent weeks, particularly with the election being probably the biggest, other ongoing news story that we're still contending with. And certainly I have not put in the time or the output of my own, brain cells towards looking at new data and new studies and new math and that, but they're still going on, obviously.
Of course.
uh, just I've had other things to look at, and then in recent days we've been planning the TPC road trip, and so I've had some uh, longer periods of time that I've stepped back away from the whole coronavirus thing, and uh, on occasion, my uh, faithful, loyal readers and followers from the TPC page will send me links that, have you seen this yet? Have you seen that yet?
Yeah.
And I get those all day long anyway. But uh, somebody sent me this one, and it caught my eyes because it did have the Swedish connection to it, and me being, a Sweden fanboy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I started looking over it, and thankfully, there's always people out there that are putting together tracking the stats worldwide and putting together those beautiful graphs and
They have the
charts.
time to
And
do that.
right,
Yeah.
they have the time, and they have the grants and funding and all of those kind of things to spend that uh, detailed time poring over that data. Uh, and while that fascinates the hell out of me, that's not something I have the time to do. But thankful when I run across articles like that, and people that are covering and publishing the data from these organizations. And this particular organization has been tracking specifically the severity of lockdowns in every country in the world. So,
Yeah.
except for North Korea, because they don't report anything. So, but pretty much everywhere else. It looks like the freest country, looking at the maps that they've created, the freest country throughout, as an average of the entire pandemic episode, has been Japan. But right up there in the top tier of the most, or should I say, the least severely locked down nations have been the Nordic countries. And although Norway and Finland hit it a little bit harder at the very beginning,
Mm-hmm.
they backed off very quickly. They actually have a lower lockdown severity ratio. I forget what it was called in the article. I don't have it here in front
Yeah.
of me, but they actually have a lower average severity than even Sweden does, and consequently, because of their more their they paid better attention to their at-risk population than Sweden did at the very
Yeah.
beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So their death rate per million as an average across the entire episode is much lower than Sweden's, although Sweden's is bottomed out and has flatlined, while and now at pace with the other Nordic countries as well.
Mm.
And then you have, in addition to that, the report we made just last week about the big Danish study. So
Yeah. Of course.
these Scandinavians are all over this thing. They seem to be doing it right, and they seem to be tracking it better. But in none of these countries is there a mask mandate. They're not. They have mask recommendations, but they don't have mandates, and they don't have the holiday mask Gestapo now coming to your door to see if you're wearing a mask in your home for Thanksgiving meal. And which, as I wrote about this morning, my esteemed Corona Gruppenführer Cooper, my governor here in North Carolina, has decided by executive order issued and printed yesterday. And although I'm not quoting it specifically, but I read it and I can tell you exactly what it says. It basically says that if you are in the vicinity of anyone who is not a current member of your household, not sleeping, living in your abode, then you must have a mask on, even if somebody from outside of your household comes over at any time, holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, or otherwise. If somebody else is in your house who does not sleep there and is not their home, then masks are required according to this executive order. That extends to your automobile as well. So if you have somebody driving in your automobile who does not live in your home with you, masks are required. So you can just imagine this now. So there's still going to be a lot of holiday traffic. We know that. We know that people are still going to drive to, over the river, through the woods, to grandmother's house they go, or whatever.
Yeah.
And still going to happen. May not be in the numbers that are traditionally the largest travel days of the year are associated with Thanksgiving, even bigger than Christmas.
Yeah.
So we know that people are still going to travel. There's just literally millions of people on Twitter, Facebook, giving the big, F you to their governors, saying, no, we're getting together with our family. So we're seeing that. We know that it's going to happen. Okay. Now, on the way over the river and through the hills to grandmother's house, you got a busted taillight, and you got caught driving 10 miles over the speed limit, or whatever your reason for being pulled over. They're no longer going to walk up and look and see if you're wearing your seat belts. Now they're going to look in there and they're going to ask you if everybody in the car is a part of your immediate family. Are they going to require IDs from the people in your back? So what if you do have somebody in your car with you over the holidays that is not a member of your immediate family, and when the officer walks up to the car, you're not wearing your masks? Well, in certain communities around this country, there are fines associated, including here. Corona Gruppenführer Cooper has been applauding one of our counties just to the west of Wake County here in the Raleigh, in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's where Greensboro is, and applauding their mayor for instituting very severe fines and penalties for non-mask compliance in all manner of places. So,
how is this constitutional? Like how
well,
the thought of it, Steve, I don't think I told you this, but where I lived in Florida, Florida is the retirement capital of the world. I think about 29% of the population is 65 or over. Okay. So, right. And we lived in a retirement community. We didn't know it was a retirement community before we moved in, but every other house is basically a retiree. So, you go out grocery shopping and every other person is a retiree or of the retiree age. And so there was a hypersensitivity in the area to COVID-19. And so the city council, or I think it was the city council, issued early on a non-compliance for not wearing your mask. There would be a $250 fine in the area. Okay. I had to go in and I had to go to Publix to go get trash bags. I think we ran out of trash bags, and I ran in to get it. I had my mask in the car because I'm trying to be sensitive to these elderly people, right? Not because of me. I was trying to, but I left my mask in the car, ran in, came back. I was in Publix for 2 minutes, had grabbed my trash bags. I was checking out. And in that process, a retiree had gone to customer service, and they were talking to them and pointing me out that I wasn't wearing a mask and asking them to call the police so that I would get fined.
Yeah.
And the guy checking me out kind of looked over his shoulder and rolled his eyes. I paid quickly and ran out the door back to my car. Completely innocent mistake. I was going to wear a mask. I didn't want to, but because there's a lot of retirees and they get really upset. And I was like, okay, I'll respect that. That's fine. But I forgot. And then here was somebody at customer service demanding that I get fined for an innocent mistake and really an unconstitutional provision that had been set forth by the local legislature. It was stupid, so stupid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't see how once these things start hitting the courts. I mean, particularly, I mean, come on. Telling us how many people we can have in our homes, what family members we can't have in our homes, that we have to wear a mask inside our homes. Remember, and let's just be perfectly clear here. There's a lot of people out there. I get negative comments about the phrase "the slippery slope" all the time. I mean, there's a whole thought process that argues against the concept of the slippery slope. But back in March, the very, very, very first lockdown
I remember.
procedures,
I
I
remember.
said those words so many times.
You did.
Slippery slope,
You did.
slippery slope, slippery slope. We're going down that slope. I even at one point talked about, it being a, greased, bacon fat, slippery slope that was, greased bacon fat on ice, on a steep hill. And that's how slippery this was. And, there's always those that come on there and they jump all up in your, what for that particular logical fallacy, as some of them would refer to it. But at the end of the day, or should we say the end of the day, at the end of this freaking year, 8-9 months later, man, here, what are they doing up? They are greasing up that slope yet again. I mean, it's like they've got a chicken fat hose gun that they're greasing that slope right now.
That's kind of gross to think about.
Yeah, no, it's awful, and that's where we're headed. And as somebody said, in commenting on one of my posts this morning, that this is a slippery slope heading right towards the mandatory vaccine. Here we go. It's been prepared all the way.
I know, and you know what? Going back to my trip and cancellation, Qantas Airlines, the CEO of Qantas Airlines, which is national airlines out of Australia, they announced on Monday or over the weekend that if you want to fly in and out of Australia on Qantas, you have to have the vaccine. They were going to require official doctor's notification that you have the virus, which it's going to come here, which means that my desire to be a humanitarian and help people out is now all going to be couched with, I have to get the vaccine. Well, I don't want to get the vaccine.
Okay, A, you don't want to get it. And B, let's say if you do, because a lot of us are going to make choices about this vaccine just based on the fact that we have to continue to live and pay our bills and put food on our families' tables.
I get that. I get that.
There's going to be a lot of us that are going to be forced into that situation. I mean, for me personally, my children are grown and they're out of the house. They have their own career set right now in the directions that they're going. They technically don't need me to put food on their table any longer. All right. But am I going to get to do that which I love, which is being on stage, if I don't take the vaccine? And then for you, you're not going to be able to bring, humanitarian relief to Kurdistan or anywhere else in the world because you're not going to be allowed to get on an airplane and even to just do what you do to bring that relief unless you take the vaccine. But there's another question. Well, how long are they going to suspend you from being able to travel when you're not even going to be able to get it because they're going to start the allocation of the vaccine, obviously, to the most at-risk populations first. Let's just, let's be perfectly honest. They're not going to suddenly have 7-8 billion vials of this vaccine and have it ready to distribute and poke in people's arms, in the next 2 weeks. It's not going to happen.
They don't have enough dry ice to keep it cold enough to
exactly
distribute it.
70 below.
Some obscene number.
70 below Celsius. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's insane. Going back to and I know we jumped back and forth between the two posts that you had posted today, but the first one and the Nordic country and the disparity, it was interesting. I was looking at a post from one of our followers, John Carson. He said, "Caution, talk like this will get you labeled as a domestic terrorist." Questioning Sweden and
What
supporting
my
that.
response was,
So be it.
so be it.
So
You
be it.
know, First Amendment. You know, if I become a political prisoner for using my voice in either illustrating, highlighting, um, going against the narrative in any way, shape, or form. I don't care even if I make a mistake, Scott, because look, let's just be perfectly honest. If you spend as much time writing as I spend writing, and if you have written, just this year alone, I've written hundreds of thousands of words that have ended up in, on the internets and, in social media, hundreds of thousands of words. I've written, book length amount of words just this year.
Yeah.
And as I say, the internet doesn't forget. So of all of this information that I put out there, and I've had to retract a couple things. And when I've made a couple mistakes, I've gone back and, okay, all right, I didn't get this fact right. Or, oops, I put the decimal point in the wrong place. You can't have that volume of output. I don't care who you are. I don't care how smart you are. I don't care how diligent you are. I don't care how many fact checkers you have behind you. And I have none. I don't have an ombudsman looking over my shoulder, like and yet the New York Post, I'm sorry, the New York Times, Washington Post, all of these other great news agencies have their ombudsmans looking
Ombudsman. Ombudsman.
ombudsman.
Mhm.
They have those looking over their shoulders, um, ostensibly for the purpose of making sure of the accuracy of their content, of everything they put out there, even supposedly in the content of their editorial and opinion pieces. But we know that that's not true. We know that they have gone way beyond caring about whether they get it right to actually manufacturing and creating stories and news that don't exist. So we know that that's taking place. Well, I don't have that person or that crew or that staff looking over my
No, we
shoulder. So
don't. We
I'm
don't.
going to make a mistake on occasion, and it's just going to happen. But having said that, even if I make a mistake, I don't deserve to have my voice silenced. I don't deserve to be labeled a political terrorist or a domestic terrorist. And that is because we have a First Amendment, which gives us the right to say whatever the hell we want to say. And, and we know that there are legitimate limitations to that. We know that, the screaming fire in a theater, but see, that's not speech against even screaming fire in a crowded movie theater. That's not political speech.
No, it's not.
That's against the rules of the private business, the theater, where you're sitting. And if you scream fire in a crowded theater and there wasn't a fire, then you deserve to be prosecuted for causing a panic and possibly, harming people, because people do get trampled to death in panic situations and crowded situations. And so that's not even a First Amendment issue. I hate that when they bring up the fire in the crowded theater as a First Amendment issue, because it's not speech against the government. It's not political speech at all. It's not speech in the public square. So that's what you want to limit in your property in your home, and I get it. And then we talk about the limitations on that are the rights that Facebook, Twitter, and other social media big tech platforms have, because they own it. They have the right to control the content, and they do to a certain extent. But having said that, um, when they arbitrarily apply their, uh,
And it is entirely arbitrary. It's
yeah, it, when
entirely
it,
arbitrary.
right. But when they can, yeah, and it is, and when they do in fact arbitrarily apply their standards, then they're crossing into some other legal territory and opening themselves up to lawsuits, which I hope these class action lawsuits begin to fall like crazy now. I saw isn't is it Candace Owen is putting together
Yes.
a class
Yep.
action against
Yep.
Twitter.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And
So
going back to
power to her.
again, going back to the throttling and the silencing of voices. I was actually looking at some metrics today on the back end of Facebook, and we are anywhere between 27 to 40% down in the past 28 days on engagements from the people that follow us, from our followers. And that is not because you have a lack of volume of content or that you just suddenly hit a stream of suckiness. in your output that is entirely arbitrary, or actually, I think it is. I think it's intentional, their
Yeah.
action against you, and our numbers bear that out. We are, according to Facebook's metrics, we are way down in people engaging us. Well, the last 28 days, and what did it include? It included the lead up into a big election, and they wanted to silence your voice or limit your voice, and they did that, and the numbers bear that out according to Facebook.
Yeah, was it just a day or two? I did a post which was somewhat negative towards Sidney Powell. I mean, I didn't say anything negative to her. It was the story about her and Giuliani
Yeah,
having
Giuliani.
their little
Yep.
yeah Giuliani having their little breakup and distancing themselves from each
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
or them distancing Powell from the Trump legal team on this thing, and I kind of just a little short, snarky, stick a fork in them, they're done kind of post like that. It wasn't anything negative towards Powell or negative towards Giuliani. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything really at all, but it had those key words in there. It obviously had Sidney Powell's name in the article, had Giuliani's name in the article, had the election controversy or the election challenges in the article. I think as of today, there's only been like 70 reactions to that post. And Scott, that's just impossible. That's impossible.
It's fun. It's absolutely impossible unless they took, you know, it's like they took a fire hose or a fire hydrant and they condensed it down to a syringe. You have to be
Yeah.
for the output. You have to be
Exactly what
so intentional about that.
Right. No, they've choked it off in terms of the number of people that can see it, because just I don't even have to look at the analytics. Having been as active as I have been in Facebook for as many years as I have been there now, in daily basis, I get caught by surprise very rarely. Very, very, very rarely do I post something that I don't already know what the reaction level is going to be, just because of the subject nature itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know before I put it out there whether it's going to be, 700 likes or 2,000 or whatever. I basically know in advance.
Yeah.
I get surprised every once in a while, but where I get surprised is I get surprised where they go more viral. It's like I'll write something that I was kind of like, just did, I had a momentary, 5-second moment of inspiration, jotted all my thoughts down in 5 minutes, did a quick proofread, posted it, walked away from it, not really expecting anything from it. And all of a sudden, bam, the thing went everywhere. It was being shared
Yep.
thousands of times, whatever. Those are the only ones that surprise me when that happens. But when I put something out there talking about, if I had posted that post before the election, if let's just say that pre-election, Sidney Powell and Giuliani were both on Trump's legal team and they had some sort of falling, out, it would have within 2 hours had, 500 to 700 reactions, and then it would have petered out from
Yep.
there. I don't
Yep.
know whether it would have hit 1,000 or not, but but that's what that post should have gotten. And as I said, here 2 days later, it's only up to 70. It's ridiculous. And even I just read somebody even commented, my, the TPC followers are themselves noticing the throttling that's happening in
Yeah.
their
I think you
comments.
said that, hey, I hadn't heard or seen anything from you for a couple of weeks, and I thought I'd come around again.
Yeah, well,
Why was that?
right, but somebody on that Sidney Powell post even just commented today and said, "Wow, man, you can really tell that your numbers are way, way, way down." And
Yeah.
and so it's apparent, and we moan and complain and we bitch about that on all these podcasts. But I think it's worth continuing to talk about. It's worth continuing to put in front of everybody's faces, because they have to understand that part of the reason why I'm doing this road trip, and now, this is a segue. I didn't plan on this segue, but it was a convenient part, because one of the things that I wanted to do, and this is the feedback that I'm getting from all over the country right now, is how do we continue building this network, staying in touch with one another once they start turning the light switches off on us, because that's exactly what's going to happen. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're all running to Parler right now, but Parler's it's got its growing pains, and it's clunky, and it's only 1,000 characters, and it's not anywhere near the functionality of Facebook. So we're over on MeWe as well, and it's still kind of. And part of the clumsiness of these platforms is just me, because I just don't. Old dog new.
It's not all you. There's a clumsy factor there because they are new and they can't handle the bandwidth right now, and they weren't prepared for this. So that's
and so yeah, so there is that, but I'm also have been very, very comfortable in my own little environment. So getting out of that technology environment and moving over and learning how all of them are different from one another, and how to navigate and how to successfully communicate. You actually have to develop a new style for each platform, because the psychologies are, even on the different platforms, are different, and
it's true. It
how
is
you approach.
fundamentally true. Yep.
Right. And I've become comfortable over in the Facebook world, but they're, for all intents and purposes, they're shooing us away. They haven't flipped the switch, yet. I'm still on my 2 strikes right now, and I don't even know if there's a time limit on my 2 strikes. I don't know if one falls off in 30 days and the next one falls. I don't even know. I don't even know. I mean, I just know that I've been told if I screw up one more time, that I'm out of there. And then they don't even tell me for how long I'm out of there. I'm out of there for 30 days, or I'm out of there permanently. So the bottom line for everybody that's watching this, that's reading this, that's listening to this, is that we are on multiple other platforms. Right now, we're still on YouTube. We're going to be on, we're on Parler. We're on MeWe. We have, of course, our own website, blog site, the pragmaticconstitutionalist.com. So we're out there, and we will be able to be found by the 35,000 Facebook followers if we disappear from there. But there's no intention of us leaving there. I intend on fighting the good fight for as long as I can in that environment. And for a lot of reasons. But ironically, as you were pointing out earlier, our analytics are that our daily and per post numbers are just fraction of what they were even a month ago, and those were a fraction of what they were 4 years ago, because of their process of well, there's normal processes that Facebook have throttled everybody, and that's regardless of political ideology, because they're trying to make money. They're trying to get us to spend money, even to talk to our own followers. Yeah, so they only allow, under normal circumstances, 1% to 3% of your page's followers to see what your output is anyway, just under normal circumstances, unless that follower just has a habit of going to see you every day. They're not typically going to see everything that you put out there. And that is to encourage, or induce the page owners and admins like myself to go in and buy ads just to even get to our own followers. So there's that.
That's if you have access to your ad account,
right? Which we don't right now.
After not violating a single identifiable clause or rule or principle of Facebook. Yeah.
So going back to the reason for the road trip, and this was stated from day one of my concept for why I'm doing this, was to get out there and establish old school, old world, face-to-face networking, and let's get partnerships with other liberty groups across the country. We don't have to see eye to eye on every single thing. Let me tell you something. If we're 90%, you're my friend, you're my brother, you're my, you're my band of brothers is what you are. and it doesn't, look, I don't have any common ground with the socialist libertarian caucus of the Libertarian Party, because that makes no sense whatsoever. But even though I no longer have an LP or an L on my voter registration card, and I'm unaffiliated now, that doesn't mean that we aren't still, brothers or sisters in this, fight for our freedoms. And we better line up here quickly, because we're about to be in a greater struggle than we've ever been in any of our lifetime. If you're on this planet right this minute and you grew up in the United States, so unless you, and we know, Scott and I know gosh, between us, I don't know, we probably know dozens of Soviet bloc citizens who have managed to
Yeah.
get out
Yeah.
and immigrate here into the United States.
Yeah.
And so some of them we're very close to, and those citizens know what it was like. But if we grew up here, we have never experienced the fight that we're about to enter here in the coming months, and it's like it's happening with such incredible speed right now. The that slippery slope is. I mean, it is just it's absolutely amazing how fast COVID unleashed the openness of the neo-Marxists and hardcore left-wing socialists that have been working, for a long time, laying the groundwork for what we're seeing today.
Yeah.
But
Perfect
man,
opportunity. Perfect
yeah, they took it.
opportunity for them. You're talking about freedoms and liberty and all of that stuff. The most recent post you had about Corona Gruppenführer about North Carolina. David Phillips, one of our followers, said, and I quote, "Or the right of the people peaceably to assemble. Tell Roy Pooper we don't have to listen to him. We have rights protected by the law of the land."
Yeah, and this is why I'm calling in that very post for demonstrable, open, but we need to show uh, non-compliance. We need to show demonstrations against these. I don't mind if we're chanting. I don't mind if we're carrying placards. I don't care if that's why I've always called it the mask of servitude. And pull that thing down, man. If until they, even if you've got one of those, get neck gaiters on, wear that neck gaiter into the store until they tell you to put it up. You'll be surprised how often they won't say a word to you. They really won't say much to you if you're carrying a sidearm, by the way. If you're open carrying, they generally don't say a word to you. But because of the real intense nature of the most recent calls for masking up, it is it's probably a good idea if you need basic necessities of life to have one in your pocket. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Look,
yeah, yeah.
I got my hair
Some
cut today. I'm not even allowed to do that. I mean, that's it's not only part of the Corona Gruppenführer's executive order that all hairstylists and barbershops and such have to, not only the clients but also the stylists have to be masked, but it's the policy of the private enterprise. So I'm going to follow the policy of the private enterprise. At the same time, my hairstylist leans over to me and says, "By the way, if you want to not do this, shit here, we can, I can always just come over and cut your hair at your place or whatever." So
Yeah,
that would be easy enough,
very
because
kind
she's
of
not
them.
she's not into it either. She had plenty of she dropped plenty of f-bombs today about this whole situation.
Well, it's destroying our economy. It's destroying people's livelihood, um, and you and I know that all too well. I even just saw here, Chris. You responded to Chris Hubner, one of our followers. I just got fired for not wearing a mask in California, and he explained what had happened. That he was
Yeah,
asked to wear a mask when he's going to a different part of his building, and he didn't. And I guess he had 3 exemptions per California. And,
right, right.
yeah,
Per the code and the specific exemptions for not wearing a mask, he had those, and then when he was forced to demonstrate that he doesn't have to by
no, a HIPAA.
HIPAA
I mean, HIPAA
laws.
laws. You can't
Right.
touch that.
So his boss gave him his final paycheck, and Chris has been a follower for years of,
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah,
TPC. He's
yeah.
been around forever. So our condolences, and but that's what. But look, I said earlier, I don't mind being a political prisoner for speech. If I get run in for quote unquote domestic terrorism for the words that come out of my mouth, I will have no problems proudly being a political prisoner for something that I didn't do, because that's a battle in and of itself that needs to be fought, and we'll fight it publicly in every way we can. But for somebody like Chris, and he's one example of just thousands upon thousands upon thousands that are happening out there right now. Is they're not going to prison yet. They're not going to jail. They're not being locked up. They're not being fined. But it's worse. It's worse than a fine, because he was handed his last paycheck. That implies there won't be one next week, next month.
Now what?
And right. And now what? Well, that's bigger than a fine. And finding, maybe finding jobs in California are going to be a little bit easier with the mass exodus of people from the state leaving the state. But there still is the problem of finding work during this coronavirus thing right now. And I don't know what Chris's specialization is or what his industry is, but so I don't know if it's something that's wide open or something that's narrow and doesn't have many opportunities. But the point being is that nobody should be losing their jobs over this thing right now. And particularly somebody who has the medical exemptions and, and has the medical exemptions and also has the privacy rights built in with those. So,
yeah. I guess this is something that I've come back to, and I've talked to with my wife and others and my friends. This is the second go around now with this mask mandate that so many have done in the nation before. And my question is this: if it worked before, why are we doing it? If it didn't work before, why are we doing it? I mean, either way, why are we doing it? Whether it did or didn't work.
I'm not. Yeah, and I'm not going to get into the technical details of this, because there's no sense in spending as much time on this, because everybody knows every argument from every side already. It's just like, okay, the mask debate is the new abortion debate. You're on one side or the other, and that's it. But more importantly, we know every argument on every side. We know every argument from the pro-choice crowd. We know every argument from the pro-life crowd, and we know every nuance in between. We know the exemption ideas from the pro-life people that are okay with and rape or incest or blah 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 blah, and then we know that's just it. We know every single argument. Okay, at this point, 8 months into this, we're getting to the point where we know every argument for and against the mask, and we've picked our side. And so we're not going to win a debate on either side. I'm just going to tell you here and now, they don't work. Now, unless you're using some sort of, high-grade surgical mask that's used specifically for, not infecting a patient that's gutted open and cut up, their heart laying out, in a surgeon's hands, then you're not wearing the right mask. These little, neck gaiters like I wear when I have to get my, haircut, or, I have to go to a government, you got to go to the post office. All right. Well, I can't go mail out one of our T-shirts unless I, wear a mask. Right. So these little neck gaiters, they're completely, totally worthless in terms of protecting me. So anybody who thinks that it's protecting themselves, unless you're wearing a hazmat suit, you are not protected from this virus. And the studies are they're implicit about this. You are absolutely wasting your time if you think you're protecting yourself. Now, we know the argument about the mitigation of, well, if you're hawking up, snot balls and loogies, and you're coughing and you're sneezing and you're wheezing and you're, doing that, well, then just don't go in public, because it is study after study after study. They're coming from the military. They're coming from universities. They're coming from elementary school studies from all over they're filing out. I mean, there's libraries worth of studies coming out right now that the asymptomatic people that are carrying the COVID-19 virus, but they're asymptomatic, they're not spreading it. Over and over and over and over. These studies are showing. So if you're sick, stay home. If you're sick, go lock yourself in your bedroom. If grandma's in the other room, and stay on the other side of the house from her. And if you're showing those symptoms, don't go into public. But we don't lock down and force behavior modifications on the 99.74% across all age groups that are going to survive this, even if they catch it. And that's if they catch it, because some people just don't get viruses. Their body fights off certain things. And so we know that the number of it's much higher. It's 99 plus percentile of the people that catch this virus are not going to die from this virus. But we are forcing behavior modification on that number because of the very, very, very small fractional at-risk populations. But let's protect them, and let's let the rest of us get on with our lives. And that needs to be not just the national policy, but the international policy. And and for God's sakes, if we, as we reported on here just a month ago, certainly last month, October sometime, when the WHO itself said, "Stop it, stop the lockdowns." This is enough of this.
It's actually hurting. It's actually hurting us.
More harm than good. They finally said what we said back in March was, you can't let the cure be worse than the disease. And even the WHO has looked at all of the analytics worldwide, all of the data worldwide, the starvation, the poverty, the other illnesses that have been unattended to, as people are dying from things they shouldn't be dying from because of COVID. But of course, now they're being caused as COVID, just like the guy who just recently fell off a 10-foot ladder, cracked his head wide open, and it was coded as a COVID death because he tested positive. So yeah, he tested positive, but it was the crack on his head falling off of a 10-foot ladder that killed him. But he tested positive, COVID death. And that's where we're at.
God help us all. God help us all.
Yeah. So anyway.
All right. Well, I think this is a good time for segue. Wait, no?
Well, let me. So I met with Jeffrey Amendola last night from the Amendola cigar family.
I'm waiting to hear this. This is new.
Yeah. So you haven't even heard about this yet. No. So he and I met last night at the super secret meat locker at the famous Angus barn here in Raleigh. It's the only place in town where you can actually have a big old stogie hanging out and while you're cutting your steak. It's awesome. I mean, you can eat and smoke big cigars at the same time. And the upshot is that we're looking at coming into a sponsorship endorsement type arrangement with Amendola Family Cigars, and we'll be actually, this is the part I'm most excited about. We will be selecting and creating our own TPC blend, which will be built for us and rolled for us by the Amendola family cigar manufacturers, which are down in Nicaragua now. He's moved from Honduras. And just a brief background. Jeffrey and I have been friends for years, and he was in law enforcement here, and he was a hobbyist, a cigar guy, roller, and he kind of really wanted to get into the cigar, not business, but just as a hobby. He wanted to know everything about it and wanted to know how to roll his own cigars and create his own blends, and just for fun. And so he was buying, because he knew some Jeffrey's a good Italian guy, and he knew a bunch of his homies up in Brooklyn or the Bronx, somewhere up there in New York, and that have a cigar factory up there. And so he would buy the tobaccos from them, and from whatever they were getting and wherever they were procuring them from anywhere in the world, he would bring those back down here to Durham, North Carolina, and he would create his own cigars out of their tobaccos of their choices. And so he started his own little private label called Bull City Cigars, Durham being the Bull City.
Yeah.
And everything started going well. He was getting frustrated in law enforcement. He decided, being good libertarian that he is, and he decided to bail out of law enforcement altogether and throw himself, lock, stock, and barrel, and sink or swim into the cigar business. Started doing very well. Changed the name of the business here just 2 or 3, 4 years ago from the Bull City Cigars, because that was kind of, that was a singular identity just for that community. And so he wanted to brand it out. So he changed it to the Amendola brand, his name, and started going crazy, started growing, had some great initial results, some really, really strong reviews with some of his early cigars. But he was in a manufacturing situation down in Honduras, which was not as stable as it should be. Let's say,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He could tell that on occasion they weren't rolling his blend, if you know what I mean. You get box after box after box after box, and it's all yours. It's what you created, and then all of a sudden you get some that's not your blend, and it. And so it wasn't as stable. So he finally, just in the last year, has moved his entire operation to Nicaragua, and all of his blends are manufactured I believe in the AJ Fernandez manufacturing
Nice.
facility. So it's
Nice.
pretty high level, high quality, high consistency, and much better access to quality tobacco leaves themselves. And as a
So we're
result,
going to have our own line
so
of
we are,
TPC
yeah,
cigars for
yeah,
those of that persuasion.
yeah, I knew
We'll
you were
be
going to be excited
offering them
about
up.
that. So we're going to have our own branded TPC cigar manufactured for us by the Amendola family. And so news about that will be coming. Lots of things are on, the cigar business is booming right now. People like me who, have been out of work for 8 months. It's been the only thing I've been spending money on is my cigar habit, because, I went from smoking anywhere from 2 to 5 a week before COVID to 2 to 5 a day. Seriously, I'm not joking.
But it helps
It's
you write. I'm telling you, you can write really well when you can sit around on the back porch with a stick and
yeah.
bang out a rant. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is. It is it does seem to be a good writer stimulus. It does. It puts you in a very contemplative mode, and you're able to stop, pause, think, and be stimulated by that thing that
Mm.
high quality premium hand rolled cigars brings to to you. I know a lot of people don't understand that, don't like it. They think all tobacco is vile and evil and horrible, and they relate it all to cigarettes and people spitting out chewing tobacco and skull and that sort of thing. But
Okay.
it's a completely different world when you get into the premium cigar world. It's just not the same, and it's not nearly as dangerous either.
No, it's not. There you go. There you go. Well, that's great news, man. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for following through with Jeff, and I'm excited. I'm excited to hear that and
Yeah,
share that with our followers and our community.
and
So
here we are. We're going to get on the road too. So I don't know how soon it's going to be before you get this particular podcast posted, but we're going to be in Pensacola. I've been busy all morning, but I'm about to dive into my email box, and my private message boxes are full yet again from people offering to either host, sponsor, or the location. We still haven't nailed down the location for next week, but we're 1 week away from Pensacola. I'm going to be there, and we're going to have a meeting, and we're going to have a meeting if we stand out on the corner in Ybor with all in front of a cigar shop.
wait, not in
We
Pensacola. You mean in Tampa?
I'm sorry, Tampa. Did I say Pensacola? Sorry.
You said
Yes, Tampa.
Pensacola.
Oh, yeah.
In Tampa.
Yeah.
And just so you
I'm
know,
glad.
it's Ybor, not Ybor. It's Ybor.
Igor, whatever.
No, it's
Yeah.
Ybor. And my great grandparents were some of the founders of that city. Just so you know.
Oh, okay. Well,
So
all
it's
right. I
Ybor
stand
City.
corrected appropriately. So. No, and I do, and I mispronounce that every single time. And now that my daughter lives there, she corrects me too, because I still say it wrong. I'll try and get. It's like saying Kamala Harris or Kamala. I'm never going to get that one right either. Even after she's been our president for 16 years, I'm still not going to have it right. But
Lord help
that's
us again.
that's another story. But the yeah, so Tampa, yes, 1 week from today, even if we're standing on a corner in Ybor,
Ybor
did I get it right?
City.
Ybor City. Jeez, you just said it to me.
Ybor.
If it wasn't spelled with a Y, Scott, I wouldn't have any
Spanish.
problem.
E.
Huh?
It's E.
I know, but it's spelled with a Y.
I know. So you
So
pronounce
it's
it E.
Ybor. E. Okay. But it's
Ybor.
spelled with a Y. Ybor. So it could be, yeah. Okay. It's Ybor. Right. So anyway, so I'm going to be standing on a corner if we don't get an actual place, but we're going to be there, and it'll be announced, probably within the next 24 hours exactly either what venue we're going to be in or what corner I'm going to be standing on. But we're going to have an event in Tampa because that's been one of the best responses we've had. It's just early on, so everyone's scrambling right now to make this thing happen.
Lots of good people down there.
Yeah, and then the dominoes fall very quickly after that. It's up to Pensacola, it's up to Louisiana, it's over to Texas. It looks like we're going to have 3 different meetings in Texas, up to Oklahoma, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Kansas City. From there up to the Minneapolis, probably going to be meeting because of the current COVID lockdown situations in Minneapolis. We're probably going to be meeting right across the state line and, in Wisconsin. So it'll be right across.
Yeah.
They demilitarized the zone line is really what it's turned into between Minnesota and Wisconsin now.
Chaz.
Yeah, exactly. And then on from there to probably Milwaukee, northwestern Indiana, a specific location also yet to be determined. Then into Ohio, and unbelievable response in Ohio. And I didn't, if I had known that we were going to have the kind of response we had from Ohio, I would have scheduled a couple of extra days or given myself a little bit more time. By the time we got to that part of the trip, though, it's like one night stands.
Bam. Oh yeah.
So I only allocated 2 days for Ohio, and now I'm regretting that. We could have easily done 3 or 4, but we'll pick those communities back up when I go to the Northeast after the first of the year. So we'll just swing up, through that direction through Ohio on our way up to Pennsylvania and other territories up there. So after Ohio, we're down to Nashville for a few days, then Chattanooga, and then going to close it up in between Christmas and New Year. So on December 30th, I think we're doing Charlotte, and that'll be my last stop. Okay. And everybody keeps asking why am I not doing more in North Carolina? I think I'm just going to do my own North Carolina run actually after this. This will maybe be part of the right after the first of the year, because we're gonna do something obviously here in Raleigh, and then there's communities all over the state. I mean, because I'm from here, we have more followers out of North Carolina than any other state in the country, but the numbers that have responded in this this first round here really came from the Charlotte area, so that I went ahead and included a stop.
That makes sense. Well, everybody just pay attention to the next 24 48 hours. We're going to be releasing everything and letting you know what's going on. I'll work on knocking our podcast out tonight, getting it posted, and so people can start downloading and digesting all this content.
And I'll wear a hat during the next podcast, so it's not sitting in my eyes anymore.
Okay, it's cute. You're cute.
I can see you.
It's all right, man. It's all right. Anything else? Any other thoughts? Where we go?
Nothing that wouldn't bore everyone to tears. The only thing I can say is that I did decide to officially kick off the holiday season today, and I spiked my coffee with rum. So there we go.
Nice. Well, I haven't. I just have a green tea. So enjoy your rum-filled coffee, and I look forward to hearing more about Amendola in the future. And everyone that's listening and watching, thank you all for listening to the TPC podcast. We're the TPC podcast crew, and be well, be safe, and continue to fight for our liberty.
And I can't wait to see everybody out there on the road for the next month. I'm leaving Friday, and I'll be gone for over a month. So I've laid out the chart and hope that as many of you can come out and see us as possible.
All right, guys. Take care.